In December of 1951, the last resident of Phoenix died. He was laid to rest in the old cemetery, the same one he had walked past for decades. When the earth settled, Phoenix was finally alone with the ghosts.
Welcome back to Tracks, Trails, and Forgotten Tales, where we talk about lost places, hidden trails, and real stories. We're your hosts. I'm Dan.
And I'm Carm.
And today we are going into part 2 of our series on Phoenix, British Columbia.
Yeah, so if you have not yet watched part 1, where we share the rise and fall of Phoenix, BC, highly encourage you to do so. Please go back and check that out. But today we are going to share the story of the last residents of Phoenix who decided to live in a ghost town.
So Phoenix, it didn't fade away slowly. It emptied almost overnight. Now, when the Granby Company loaded the last train on June 14th of 1919, families packed up what they could and left. Some of them even under the cover of darkness.
Yeah, homes pretty much stood open. There were some homes where there were still dishes sitting on the kitchen table, beds untouched. There was no time for help with moving. There was no help with moving. A lot of places or a lot of circumstances, no time for goodbyes. I mean, this was pretty much the beginning of the exodus of Phoenix.
So years later, people who returned said it felt unreal. Now, we found a video online from the Royal BC Museum that was taken in 1939. Now, this video is pretty cool. There's no sound, but it's of the residents that returned, and they're walking around Greenwood and they're walking around the old Phoenix site as well. So we're going to take this time to post this video on here.
Portions of it,
so you can see that. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, but after the video, stay tuned because we're going to share the rest of the story. Please enjoy this. I just can't get over watching that video. It's truly amazing seeing the people that used to call Phoenix home come back after so many years. We hope you enjoyed too. Now we're going to dive into the rest of the story of Phoenix after 1919.
So yeah, there was a mass exodus. Everybody left Phoenix pretty much at the same time. And yet, Phoenix wasn't completely empty. 3 men remained behind. Their names were William Henry Bambury, Robert Bob Denzler, and Adolph Sercu, better known as Forepaw.
Yeah, now we're going to share the stories of each of these gentlemen. Each has a unique story, and we found them fascinating, a little quirky, sometimes unbelievable and funny in some cases. Now, the information that we've got on this, there's from a few places. From reports that we've read, different books that we've read, newspaper clippings, research we've done on the internet, and also from one of the books that I have. And one of the stories in there is from Bob Forshaw, that he actually was born in Phoenix, and he remembers as a young boy having to leave in 1919 with his younger brother and his family, and they left Phoenix and moved down to Greenwood. And he actually knew all 3 of these people. So some of these are his recollections as well as we tell the stories. So I really hope that you do enjoy what we're going to share with you today. So really, these 3 gentlemen, they really did keep mostly to themselves. Now, we do say that Robert Bob Denzler was one of the three. He was only a part-time resident. He went back and forth, and we're going to share his story. But William Henry Bambury and Forepaw, they were permanent residents of a ghost town. They pretty much kept mostly to themselves. But I'm sure in the empty streets of a dead city, at one point or another. Yeah. So we're going to start with the story of Robert Bob Denler.
So Bob Denler, he arrived in Phoenix around 1891. He's credited with the earliest major copper discoveries, pretty much the spark that ignited the town. And then Phoenix grew fast, of course, as you know. Now, at its height, it boasted 20 hotels, gambling halls, 4 churches, a hospital, electric power plant, telephone exchanges, even an opera house.
Yeah, and Bob did become quite wealthy. But even after the mines closed, even after the town emptied, he kept coming back every summer to call Phoenix his home. In the winters, he spent in Spokane. And it was every year after year, he kept coming back.
So Bob, he remembered everything. The hockey team that won the provincial championship in 1911, the attempted challenge for the Stanley Cup, the skating rink, and the electric poles falling as the forest reclaimed the streets.
Yeah, I mean, it was said somewhere where I read that Bob was the keeper of Phoenix's memory. And when he died in 1944, he left money behind. He helped establish the Red Cross Hospital in Greenwood that served the Boundary for decades. So Forepaw was quite the character, apparently. And here's how he got his nickname, Forepaw. He lost his hand after a gun accident, and it became really badly infected. So he went and he had to have it amputated. He returned home without his hand. He went straight to the blacksmith and had a crude iron hook made. Then he went back to work. And hence the name. He even signed his name Forepaw.
Which is crazy. I would have named myself Hook. I mean, how could you not? But it's actually, the story itself, though, is he used to have this old Democrat that he went up and down into Greenwood and back and forth. And apparently he was riding up and he had his hand over the muzzle of the gun. And he hit a bump or something. He's not really sure, but it caught the safety, hit the trigger, and it blew his hand off.
Yeah, that's one of the stories that we read. That was one of Bob Forshaw's his memories. Yeah. And then, so he is the one that when Phoenix was abandoned, a small fund was set up to appoint a watchman. Now, they wanted a watchman for the first year after everybody left in 1919, because remember I said people left and their homes were pretty much still intact. They didn't want people coming and looting all of the valuables and honestly all of the lumber and everything else. So they wanted a watchman to make sure that it wasn't looted and vandalized and destroyed. So it was actually Forepaw who enthusiastically accepted this post as watchman.
So Forepaw, he accepted enthusiastically, like Carm was saying. They gave him a billy club. He cut a silver star out of a tomato tin that he wore as sheriff, I guess. And then he told him when he could live wherever he wanted. So he moved into
City Hall.
And he declared himself mayor, chief of police, and magistrate. I mean, good for that guy. That's awesome.
But, Forepaw took his job very seriously. Tomato tin, star, billy club, and all. So this is one of the memories from Bob Forshaw that I read in the book. And so one day, while prospecting with Bob's dad, they spotted 2 men near a house where 2 bikes had been left. They were able to capture one of the 2. Bob grabbed the man by one arm. Forepaw grabbed the other arm, but one escaped.
Yeah, and so Forepaw, he ran after that guy, like just barreled after this guy. Gun
in hand.
Yeah, it's been said that he actually carried a 30-30 with him.
Mhm.
So he had a gun in hand, ran after this guy, caught him, and then locked him overnight in the old Phoenix jail.
Right?
Like,
This abandoned jail.
that's kind of a creepy place. It's like you're in this jail cell in the middle of a ghost town.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of cool at the same time.
Right. But then it was said for the longest time, Forepaw refused to give that bike back.
So Forpaw, he died in 1942. His death made front page news in the Grand Forks Gazette. I'm going to read this off the screen because it's a really cool headline. Now, the headline read, "The mayor and host of Phoenix has given last welcome to famous camp." I mean, that's a headline.
Right.
That's so great.
I mean, he's so remembered. There's a picture of him and a write-up of him in the Greenwood Museum as well.
Mm-hmm.
He sounded like such an amazing, colorful character to know back then. And one of the other things that the locals discovered something pretty remarkable after his death. Forepaw had lost a large inheritance in Belgium when Hitler invaded in 1940. But apparently Forepaw didn't care. It was later that his friends stated that this is what Forepaw told his friends. He would rather have peace in Phoenix than a dazzling fortune in Belgium under the rule of Hitler.
So next we're going to talk about William Henry Bambury. Now, he was the last man in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
So when Forepaw and Denzler were gone, William Bambury remained. He was the last one.
Can you imagine living in a ghost town? The only person living in a ghost town.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Bambury was an Englishman. He was a carpenter and an avid reader. And once Phoenix emptied out and everybody left, he moved into Dr. Boucher's former house, rent-free. And this place, he was such an avid reader. He had diaries and magazines and books and stuff, newspapers everywhere. So his place was said to be quite cluttered, a little dirty, but you lived rent-free. I mean, books, newspapers, magazines filled with handwritten notes, apparently.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. So as I said, Bambury was an avid reader, an avid writer. He kept all kinds of diaries. He was always writing in his diaries. And, William Bambury was actually a great admirer of Bob Denler. And there's a write-up that they found from his diary in 1933. And I'm just going to read it because I can't go from script. But this is what William Bambury wrote about Bob Denler. Bob Denzler, now 82, can take credit for the first discovery and subsequent development of this copper bonanza. His arrival in the summer of 1891 was about 2 hours after the first white man ever known to reach here, and to his dogged faith and perseverance was due to the subsequent prosperity of Phoenix. And unlike the huge percentage of prospectors, he became wealthy in the process. His abiding faith brings him here every spring from Spokane to work some of the properties he owns. He is everywhere liked and respected. Now, Bambury, on the other hand, had very different feelings about Forpaw. He did not like Forpaw. He avoided him at all costs, even though they lived in the same city for a while, up until Forpaw passed away. He wanted nothing to do with him. And he did write this as well in one of his diaries.
So what he wrote, very different. And I'm going to read this straight out of the article. He is a peasant-born Belgian of limited literacy who poses vaulting ambition and high executive ideals.
Yeah.
So that's not quite as nice. So being alone, Bambury up in Phoenix by himself, didn't always eat that well. I mean, it's hard for him to walk down, get food back up there. So when he needed a decent meal, and this is recollection of Bob Forshaw, Bambury would walk the 8 kilometers down to Greenwood and have dinner with his family.
Yes.
The Forshaw family.
Yeah.
Now, he would eat supper quietly with the family, and then he would retire into the sitting room and he would just read late into the night. And then the Forshaws would go to bed and just leave him to his reading and whatever. And when he was done, he would just quietly let himself out and walk back up to Phoenix.
Yeah. right? Like 8 kilometers back up to Phoenix
Come on down,
in the middle
have
of
a meal. We're going to go to bed.
in the middle
Have
of
a
the
good
night. Now, he would remain living in basically solitary existence in Phoenix up until the early 1940s. And at this point, it started to get, especially the winters were starting to get too rough.
Yeah.
There's another part in one of his diaries in 1949 where he describes quite vividly about what the winter was like before, and this was his deciding factor to head down to Greenwood and move into room 28 of the Windsor Hotel.
Yeah.
So again, I'm just going to read this because it's easier for me to do this. And this is right from one of his diaries. December 10th, 1949. Kept a fire in the bedroom all night with no entirely satisfactory results, although no ice formed in the room. It was different in the other bedroom, where I had to use an axe in the bathtub before I could take my bath. By this time, I decided that remaining in Phoenix any longer was futile. I cut 2 lengths of plank, 2 inches by 10 feet, and selected all the indispensable items, most of which I packed in my leather grip, and the rest in 2 cotton sacks, which I linked together over my shoulder and set out for Greenwood at 15:20, arriving in Greenwood at 17:20. At the age of 82, he walked 8 kilometers down the hill to Greenwood.
Just pulling his stuff behind him on a couple planks.
Right?
That couldn't have been easy.
No. And I mean, what he took with him were, and again, I just right here, A, B, S, and C tablets, a dictionary, hymns, his diaries, a Bible, map, any correspondence that he kept, he thought was important to him, the Mining Act, and Maclean's Magazine.
That last one's an odd one. Maclean's Magazine.
Maclean's Magazine. But and he did. He rented a room at the Greenwoods Windsor Hotel, and there he continued writing in his diaries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He basically he lived out his life there.
He did.
So the following May, after he moved down to Greenwood, Bambury, he returned to Phoenix one last time. Now, this is a diary entry once again, so I'm going to read it straight from the page, so I don't get anything wrong. This is dated May 28th, 1950. I'm strolling around this morning. I observed that the wreckage of the King's Hotel and that of the Bellevue Hotel seemed to have sunk considerably. Given the impression that a mine cave-in had caused this subsidence, water not far below, apparently.
Yeah,
so it sounds like the water was coming up into the mine.
Yeah, and perhaps for the first time, he truly noticed how much and how far Phoenix had fallen.
Mm-hmm.
What emotions that would have felt to go back up there and just to see what it looked like at that time. And, so Phoenix's last resident, William Bambury, he died in December of 1951, and he was laid to rest in the old cemetery. And then Phoenix is now alone with the ghosts. Now, I do want to say this though, but William Bambury, he did, and he was just a wealth of information and left so much history and looked after the town of Phoenix. And on July 11th, 1999, there was a cavalcade of cars that drove up to the old Phoenix cemetery, and they dedicated a headstone for William Bambury almost 50 years after his death.
That's amazing.
It really is, right?
So in the 1950s, after he died, Phoenix rose again, sort of, not as a town, but as an open pit mine. Now, the operation, it ran on and off until about 1978. But unfortunately, the company had no interest in preserving the buildings. So what they actually did is they bulldozed it all, buried it, and basically erased
the entire town.
Yeah.
All that remains now is a massive open pit mine filled with water, the 2 pioneer cemeteries, and just outside the former city limits, the First World War cenotaph that was moved in order to preserve it because it used to be towards the center of town.
Yeah. So in Greenwood today stands a metal phoenix sculpture, which was created by the miners in the 1970s. It was made as a symbol of hope and remembrance.
So some locals believe that Phoenix still has a chance of rising again, at least in memory. And others, like Bob Forshaw, wish it had never been allowed to die. He once said it was a pity that we didn't preserve it. Had it been preserved, it would have knocked the socks off of Barkerville.
I have to agree. I mean, all of the buildings, like if you look at the pictures of Phoenix in its boom, it dwarfed Barkerville. It dwarfed Barkerville. It made Barkerville look so small. We've been to Barkerville. Even now, I mean, it's really, really cool. And
don't get me wrong, it's very cool. I love Barkerville.
But when you look at the size of Phoenix versus the size of Barkerville, it would have been an amazing piece of history to keep.
And really, when you drive past and you look on the road and there isn't anything there. However, we have found some found some remains. We've found some foundations, old foundations. You need to look for them.
Yeah, we found some old rail tracks, which are pretty cool.
We've driven down the rail grades that used to be the old railways, the VV&E, the GNR, the CPR. So it is a cool area. We love to go up there and explore. Yeah, I mean, Phoenix wasn't just a town. It was a community, a home, and finally a place held together by 3 men who refused to leave.
What a great story. We hope you enjoyed the story as much as we do. So thanks for joining us today on Tracks, Trails, and Forgotten Tales. Join us next week as we start diving into the story of Greenwood, British Columbia, which is only 8 kilometers down the hill.
Yeah, we're super excited. So much history in Greenwood. We've touched a little bit on it in these past 2 episodes. So we're really excited to go there, a place that we've visited a lot. So tune in next Friday.
Yeah, until then, cheers.
Cheers.